Welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a deep, honest look at the BAIC X55 Plus Premium 2T after 20,000 kilometers of real-world driving, and this is not just a first impression, this is what it's actually like to live with this Chinese SUV every single day, including performance, features, reliability, and most importantly, cost of ownership. So let's start with what this car actually is. The BAIC X55 Plus Premium 2T is a compact crossover SUV that's designed to compete with cars like the Honda Hour-V, Toyota Corolla Cross, and even some higher-end SUVs, but at a much lower price point. Under the hood, you get a 1.5-liter turbocharged engine pushing around 130 to 138 kilowatts and about 305 Newton-meters of torque, paired with a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, and on paper, that already sounds impressive for this segment. Now in real driving, that power actually translates into strong performance. This thing does 0 to 100 in around 7.7 to 7.8 seconds, which honestly feels quick when you're merging onto highways or overtaking slower traffic. And after 20,000 kilometers, the engine still feels responsive, the turbo kicks in smoothly, and there's no major drop in performance, which is a very good sign. But let's talk about the driving experience because numbers don't tell the full story. Around the city, the steering is light, very easy to handle in tight spaces, and the suspension setup with McPherson struts in the front and multi-link at the rear actually gives a comfortable ride. It absorbs bumps quite well, especially on rough roads like we have in many parts of Pakistan, but at higher speeds, you do start to feel a bit of softness in the suspension, which means it's more tuned for comfort than sporty handling. Now after 20,000 kilometers, one thing you really notice is how refined the cabin still feels. Inside, this car really punches above its price. You get a premium-style interior with sporty bucket seats, ambient lighting, a large infotainment screen, wireless charging, and a panoramic roof that makes the cabin feel very open and modern. Even after months of usage, there are no major rattles or cheap-feeling panels, which is something people usually worry about with newer Chinese brands. Technology is another strong point. The infotainment system is fast, mostly smooth, and comes with smartphone connectivity, and features like a 360-degree camera, adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, and lane assist make this car feel like it belongs in a much higher price category. In fact, many owners say the tech is one of the biggest reasons they chose this car. Greater than from real owner feedback online, one user said, "Interior feels premium, 360 camera is one of the best I tried." That pretty much sums up the experience. You're getting features that you normally only see in much more expensive cars. Now let's get into the real stuff, reliability after 20,000 kilometers, because this is where things get interesting. The good news is that most owners report no major mechanical failures in the early stages, especially within the first 40,000 kilometers, which means this car can be reliable if properly maintained. But there are some minor issues that have been reported. Things like infotainment glitches, occasional software lag, brake feel inconsistency, and small quality control issues like headlight fogging or sensor calibration problems. These are not deal breakers, but they do show that this car is not as refined as Japanese or Korean competitors yet. And here's the important part, this is not a buy it and forget it type of car. This is a car that requires proper maintenance and attention. If you take care of it, it will serve you well. If you ignore it, problems can start showing earlier than expected. Now let's talk about cost of ownership, because this is where many people get confused. On the surface, this car is cheap to buy, but what about long-term costs? Maintenance-wise, it's actually not too bad. On average, owners spend around $385 per year on maintenance, which is lower than many Japanese rivals. Oil changes, filters, and regular service are quite affordable, and the engine itself is not overly complicated. Fuel consumption is around 7 to 7.7 liters per 100 kilometers, which is decent for a turbo SUV with this level of performance. So daily running cost is manageable, especially if fuel prices are stable. But then we come to the hidden costs. Spare parts availability can be an issue depending on your region. In some cases, parts can take anywhere from 1 week to several weeks to arrive, especially for advanced components like sensors or lighting systems. That means if something goes wrong, you might be waiting. Insurance is also slightly higher compared to mainstream brands because the data on reliability and parts availability is still limited. And then comes depreciation, which is probably the biggest downside. These cars lose value faster than Toyota or Honda. In some cases, depreciation can be as high as 35 to 40% in the first year alone. So if you're planning to resell quickly, this is not the best choice. But if you plan to keep the car long term, then depreciation doesn't really matter as much, and that's where this car makes more sense. After 20,000 kilometers, the overall ownership experience can be described in a very simple way. This is a high-value, feature-packed SUV that gives you a premium feel at a budget price, but it comes with some trade-offs in long-term reliability, confidence, resale value, and parts availability. So who should actually buy this car? If you are someone who wants maximum features, modern design, strong performance, and you're okay with taking a bit of risk on long-term reliability, then this car is a very attractive option. But if you want something completely worry-free, with proven reliability, strong resale value, and easy parts availability, then you might still prefer something like a Toyota or Honda. At the end of the day, the BAIC X55 Plus Premium 2T is not a bad car at all. In fact, it's surprisingly good for what it offers. It just hasn't fully earned the long-term trust yet that more established brands have. And after 20,000 kilometers, it proves one thing very clearly: Chinese cars are improving fast, and they are already competing strongly in terms of features, performance, and value. The only question that remains is long-term durability, and that's something only time will truly answer. So that's the real-world review after 20,000 kilometers. If you're considering this car, hopefully now you know exactly what you're getting into, the good, the bad, and everything in between.